2021 to order at 6:33. Roll call, Ned?
Craig Palmer,
Here.
Tom Murphy,
Here.
Ned Dalton here, Joe Paletta,
Here.
George Tupont,
Here.
Luigi Cavallo,
Here.
Pierre Moran, Charles Beliveau, Scott Tierman.
Ned, could you read the ground rules plus the letter from the town manager on the mask policy?
Yes. Ground rules, Conservation Commission in the Wetland Agency. Number one, the applicant or his representative will make his formal presentation to the commission stating the proposed regulated activities, the wetland impacts, and the alternatives which were considered by the applicant. Number two, all comments, discussion, and observations shall be made through the chair after proper recognition by the chairman. This is necessary to ensure that only one person at a time speaks on any issue, thus making it easier for everyone to understand and for clearer legal transcription. Number three, all persons addressing the commission shall begin by first clearly stating their name and address for the record. If necessary, the person may be asked to spell his or her name for the record. Number four, following the presentation of the application, the Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency will ask specific questions of the applicant. Number five, excuse me. After the commission has asked its questions of the applicant, the chairman shall then allow any members of the public who wish to speak either in favor of this application or against it to address the commission. Number six, the chairman shall then allow the applicant to respond to the comments of the members of the general public. 7, the chairman shall then allow any members of the general public who wish to present any additional information or clarifying discussion to do so. 8, the chairman shall then provide an opportunity for the applicant to respond to these additional remarks if he or his representative so wishes. 9, Conservation Commission in the Wetland Agency has 35 days from the date the public hearing commences to complete the public hearing. The Commission may ask the applicant for a 35-day extension of the public hearing period if the Commission requires any additional information or wishes to schedule a site walk to observe the situation for themselves. And 10, the Conservation Commission in the Wetland Agency has 35 days from the date when the public hearing is closed to render its decision. Memorandum from the Town of Watertown to Watertown Town employees, boards, and commissions. From Mark Ramo, Town Manager, date August 1st, 2021, Town Hall meetings. Effective August 21st, 2021, I am permitting Town Council boards and commissions meetings to proceed with the public in attendance on a first-come basis. The meetings held in council chambers shall not exceed 40 occupants total, to include councilors, commissioners, town personnel, staff, and members of the public. Each occupant shall wear a face mask and continue to practice social distancing. It shall be the responsibility of the board and commission chair and the town staff liaison to ensure that the above is adhered to. If the council chamber reaches its max capacity, the commission can elect to use Planning and Zoning conference room and the Park and Recreation conference room as overflow rooms. Each conference room shall be set up to allow for the viewing of the meeting. In addition, if members of the public are not permitted into the council chambers due to a max capacity, it is suggested that the chairman or his designee allow for members of the public to rotate in and out of the chambers to facilitate testimony for the commission. The directive may be adjusted by town manager or his designee depending on other meeting room sizes.
Continuation of the public hearing. One, continuation of the public hearing from July 15th, 2021 for the application 2021-18 of Alan Borghese for the construction of an 8,100 square foot building, 56 parking spaces, grading and drainage improvements within an upland review area at the intersection of Echo Lake Road and Buckingham Street, Watertown, Connecticut.
For the record, my name is Alan Borghese. I'm a civil engineer, chairman of Borghese Building and Engineering Company. I live at 134 Wind Tree Drive in Torrington. And I'm here to make a presentation. Now at the last meeting, we've basically talked about almost all of the items on this particular application, but basically we have an 8,000 square foot building on about 4.5 acres of land. And as I said before, this site was previously approved for a restaurant a number of years ago, and that development at the restaurant did not have any detention ponds or any other protections that we now are affording with this particular building. I brought a picture, and I think you all have a copy of this, of the site. And the thing that I just want to bring up to the commission is on the entrance to Echo Lake. Our first drawing on that site actually showed the entrance to the left of the page more. When we walked around with the commissioners, they noted that there was a fire hydrant there, and they suggested at that point that I shift this driveway more to the right, which did impact the wetlands to a small degree that they thought was not significant, especially with the vegetation there. It was not a significant vegetation. I'll just repeat a couple of things here that we should note. All of the drainage of this site goes to that upper left green area that is really a detention water treatment quality basin for this site. None of it drains directly into the road or into any adjacent sites. From there, it is there's a detention system that regulates the water outflow to basically match on a 10-year, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, and 50-year storm, the present outflow from that site. We've made some modifications at the request of the Wetlands Commission here and improved that basin with a couple of items, but basically there was I think it's a dropped invert that they called it, that we put there, and also some channelization for low flow through the detention basin. We're honored tonight to have David Lord here join us, and David Lord wrote a letter to us. He runs Soil Resource Consultants, and maybe David can say a few words about what we're providing here. David?
Good evening. For the record, my name is David Lord. I'm a professional soil scientist and environmental consultant. My company is Soil Resource Consultants. I have an office in Meriden, Connecticut. What Alan has just referred to is a report that was submitted as part of the application package dated August 5th. Talks about an assessment that I made of the function and values of the on-site wetland areas and the likelihood or potential for any adverse impacts from the proposed development activities. We have one, as Alan mentioned, and I will try and point at the area, and if I don't get picked up on the microphone, I'll talk a little louder. As Alan mentioned, this is an area of proposed impact. During the on-site and subsequent discussions, we came up with a compensation mitigation area that is approximately 2 times larger than the proposed impact. This is an existing edge of the uplands on the site. It is in a fill condition where there's an abrupt drop off right at the edge here. What we're looking to do is excavate this area to meet existing grades in the adjacent wetlands and then establish a herbaceous ground cover vegetation seed mixture to create a similar type wetland habitat.
Sorry, Dave, can you stay on the other side because the members of the public are not able to see the monitor? That's much better now.
No problem.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. This is the area of proposed impact. It's approximately 450 square feet. Distracted, I see myself in 2 other places. This is the area of proposed wetland mitigation. It's an existing edge of fill. It's an upland by character. That's the area that we are proposing to excavate. The area shaded in a olive brown color, approximately twice the size of the proposed impact. We're going to establish wetland herbaceous ground cover vegetation in here, along with some plantings in the upland area, and let the area revegetate further into trees and shrubs through natural succession. There's an excellent plant and seed stock within the adjacent wetland along the directions, the eastern side of the site to provide that natural succession ability of existing plants, trees, and shrubs in the area to establish into this area. So no net loss. We're going to provide for it actually an increase with the proposed development. That's the sum of impacts to the wetlands. None of the other development activities, in my opinion, are going to have any likelihood for any adverse impact to the on-site wetland areas. The detention basin is over in the western side of the site. That, as Alan has mentioned, collects all of the site-generated stormwater runoff from impervious surfaces and puts it through a pretreatment detention basin to improve water quality before it is discharged into a grass, herbaceous ground cover vegetation wetland area along the road frontage with 262. So there's no direct impact other than the one small area, as Alan mentioned. It's an open field right now. It's been mowed in the past. Vegetation is sort of transitional from upland to wetland. What we're replacing it with is a true wetland vegetation zone within the compensation area. None of the other areas, and most importantly, the larger wetland system, will not be in any way adversely affected. It's a dynamic, large, highly functioning wetland system, and we're not having any impact on that system at all. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you members may have.
Last month, the commission asked, is DEP involved in here? What happens if there's a large spill here? Where is that contained? I didn't see anything in the package or.
Spill detained?
I'm sorry.
Spill detained?
No, what does DEP, we
Oil or
asked?
gas spill?
No, I'll talk about that.
Okay. Any other members from the commission have, for the soil scientist? Moose, you have anything?
I just have a question about one sentence that you wrote, the first page, last paragraph, the last sentence. You said that the existing vehicle traffic and human-generated noise levels are significant on this property and have already had influences and effects on the subject wetlands watercourse resources. How noise will impact wetlands? Do you mean that the wildlife
The
habitat?
biggest impact by
The
human
wildlife habitat or
it's mostly on the wetland habitat functioning of the area.
okay.
The significance of that human-generated noise and vehicle traffic, which is present along Ethel Lake Road, Route 222, and on the eastern side of the wetland system, this is existing development. That generation of noise and human activity, the impact is to this wetland system already. It basically removes what we call the forest interior species that require large, quiet areas of wetland. Those species have already left this large wetland system because of the existing surrounding land use. That's what I was referring to with
Okay,
that.
because it doesn't say about habitat, but it says on the wetland. But anyway, one other question, and you said that on the second page, you said that red maples, the vegetation that are there, the sentence is not complete. Are they existing there? Page
Ron?
2, paragraph on the first paragraph.
First paragraph, wetland has a dense tree canopy and medium-age stand of primarily deciduous trees such as red maples, dogwoods, meaning silky, such as red maples. Okay, I
And
just, red
high bush
maples,
blueberry
that's the period.
is present, no?
Okay, the combined. The silky red maples, where sunlight is present along the edges of the tree canopy, dense stands of dogwood, viburnum, and high bush blueberry Are present.
Are present, okay.
Are present, yeah.
Okay, okay, very good.
I wasn't
okay.
sure what, yeah,
Okay.
that's describing the shrub understory
Yeah,
carrier.
they're already there. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just want to let you know that since last meeting, we received the following information, just for the record. We received a memo from town engineer dated August 9/21, which is in your packet. And we also received the drainage calculations from the applicant engineer and elevation drawing for the canopy and gas pumps. That's also in your packet. And also the wetland functions and value report that I asked that Mr. Lord explained to you. These are the new information since last meeting.
From
And
the
if you
town
want to read
engineer.
the memo from town engineer into the record, it's a short
Yes.
memo.
August 9th, 2021, to Musa Rafi, Assistant Administrator for Land Use and Building Services and Wetland Enforcement Officer. From Paul Benovich, Town Engineer. Regarding Watertown Farm Service Center, 0 Echo Lake Road, Watertown, Connecticut. On 8/2/2021, I received via email the water quality calculations updated by Borghese Building and Engineering Company, Incorporated, for the above referenced project. The following comment is submitted for your consideration. Number one, the calculations determined that the required water quality volume is 4,577 cubic feet. However, the proposed treatment is based on the water quality flow for which a gross particle separator is proposed, which I believe is sized correctly to control the water quality volume, water quality flow. I believe that the volume in the forebay in the water quality basin, approximately 3,000 cubic feet, along with the gross particle separator, is sufficient to treat the required water quality volume. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions regarding this matter.
The forebay that the town engineer is talking about is something that we asked for it and they provided. Now the detention pond has a forebay they have designed.
I couldn't hear you. Is it designed for a 100-year storm or not?
Yes.
It definitely is. Okay, as I couldn't hear that part of it. And you had an answer about the DEP, if there's a spill? How
Yeah,
spills
let
can
me
take?
just chat with you a little bit. First of all, this is a very sophisticated operation. As I said, they came out of Tennessee. Before I got involved with them, I did some investigation because of two reasons. Number one, if I'm going to work for them, I got to know that they are economically and in business viable. I chatted with them about exactly what we discussed, which is what are the precautions that are taken in case of a spill. And first of all, the spill today is kind of interesting, very, very, very rare. You'll have more problems from other people than you are in this gasoline filling system and station. But number one, the trucks themselves are mandated by state statute to carry mitigation devices such as the sacks to absorb the material and everything else. And the facility itself, the store itself, handles materials to absorb any gas spills that occur. And from what they described to me, this is standard in the industry, required in the industry, and it is being taken care of adequately.
But there's nothing in the detention pond or anything to, I don't know. Most places have oil water separators. I don't know.
Well,
If it's not required, it's.
We do have the separator on the discharge to the wetlands,
Right.
which handles oil, by the way.
Okay,
That is part of the function of that unit.
right. I know I've seen some things that have automatic shutdown. I just didn't know what a gas station is required. I mean, a car
Okay.
drives off with the hose connected. That has nothing to do with the truck or the people in the store.
Yeah, those automatic stopping fill nozzles, they fail all the time.
Right.
It's not uncommon for them to fail.
Right.
So in that instance, somebody fills up their car, they walk into the grocery store, they wait in line for 10 minutes for a grinder or whatever they're getting. Meanwhile, their auto shut-off failed. You've just pumped, I don't know, what do you think they pump? 10 gallons a minute out of those pumps?
No, but
Probably whatever.
Whatever.
But I just-
100 gallons
Right,
of
yeah.
fuel, it's washing down into the drain, into the retention pond.
Right.
What is the deep, or
Right.
what kind of protections are in place for the wetlands at that point?
Well, there's two things, Luigi. The first thing is, you know that the nozzles have automatic shutoffs. You know that.
Those fail all the time.
And, well, I've never seen one leak, but
We don't live in the same
if you're
world.
saying they do, I have no way of contradicting you. And there is a fair distance from the pump itself to the nearest catch basin. I think we've taken every precaution we can. There are sumps in the catch basins which are exactly meant for this, of storage of anything like an oil or gas on a short-term basis. And I'm going to say to you, I know of no other protections that could be added to this system to work.
they have, a lot of new gas stations that you see that are near wetlands have a trough around the pad for the gas filling station, filling area. And the question kind of was is why is that not proposed and is it required?
I am not familiar with that, so I must answer to you, Ned, that I have not proposed it because I have not been familiar
Right.
with it.
Yeah, a lot of them, you see,
And
you have it, I
to
don't
be
know.
very candid with you, I do a lot of gas station work, and I do all of Patterson Oil's work, and I have never had that instance come to light. But thank you for bringing it up.
You don't see it too often on reefer work, but you see it a lot
On
on
new
new
station.
stuff.
I think if you have, most of the Costco's have it. I don't know why,
That's one,
but
yeah.
there's one.
I-
I think we'd like something there about that.
Mr. Chairman, if that's something that other agency requires, they
Right.
have to follow that anyway.
Right.
Okay.
It is not up to us
Right.
to tell them what to do,
Okay.
yes. Because if
Over
it
here
is a
today.
DEP requirement, they have to follow that.
Right.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you, Craig. I have a hearing problem. Around the concrete pad of all of these gas pads, there is a groove pavement to retain, I have it in my own office,
Right.
to retain a
Yeah.
small spill. That's correct, and
Right.
not allow it to go onto the asphalt.
Right.
Because it actually ruins the asphalt, too.
Correct.
Are you saying that DEP requires?
If they
If they do.
they have to follow their
Right.
requirements,
Right.
yes. It's another agency who regulate these things, not us.
Anybody else from the commission have any comments, or? Would anybody from the public like to speak on this application before we, in the public hearing part? You can come up to the microphone, ma'am.
Is this on?
Yeah, if it's.
The
I know
other one
that-
is on. This
it's-
one,
The red one's on this side, or Roseanne can turn the button on.
Let me turn this on.
There it is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My name is Ann Golombieski, and I live at 37 Booth Avenue, Unit 24 in Watertown. And we are, as a group, opposed, of course, to this application. Mr. Raffi and agency members, I have more questions than statements. Ultimately, who will be financially responsible if there is an accidental spill into the land? Cleanup and mitigation is expensive. Is the mission statement of the agency to primarily protect and defend the environment of this town, or to give a pass to applications in favor of development? Did the agency ask for any countermeasures to the report submitted by Mr. Borghesi's consultants? Did you or can you pay for its own study of that land? The average citizen with a job and household duties cannot be fully aware of the EPA rules and regulations. We count on this agency to help protect the ever-shrinking undeveloped areas in each town. Under federal law, you cannot build on wetlands. Even a minor perusal of the internet concerning this subject is an eye-opener. Google sources state that less than 5% of land in the contiguous United States are designated as wetlands, and some areas have not even been correctly identified as such. Some wetlands are indeed dry. They act as sponges, ready to soak up overflow from torrential rains, preventing flooding and erosion. They slowly filter water to improve our groundwater. The vegetation helps to clean the air. The peace and quiet alone provided by the undeveloped land should be a big consideration at a time when our populations are growing too rapidly and the weather has become more and more severe. I'm hoping conservation will be a consideration in this decision more than development. Thank you. I'm wondering also, they talked about the water, the 100-year storm. Was that calculated in the Northeast where we can have 100-year rainstorms on top of ice, which totally skews the picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Sorry it took me a minute. I'm Marilyn Villano. I live at 37 Booth Avenue, Unit 20 in Oakville, right across from this proposed gas station. I was sitting here thinking, just as this Mr. Cavallo mentioned, the oil spill frequently from the tanks as you're filling. Not only are we right across from this, there's also a school. What is going to happen if, God forbid, there's an oil spill and somebody lights a lighter, or, you know, there's a fire ensues? What can happen to, you know, trying to get these children out of the building? I don't know how quickly these fires spread, but that's a concern of mine. I was just thought of that as Mr. Cavallo was speaking about spills. Mr. Borghese can answer that?
That can be true about any gas station. That can happen
Exactly.
anywhere, yes. But that's a question for the Planning and Zoning Commission. I mean, it's not like a wetland issue.
Okay.
In
No,
case,
it's
like,
just
we
a
cannot
thought.
assume that there will be a fire. In case if something happens, it can happen to any gas station. We have gas stations on Main Street next to buildings and.
Right, of course.
But
I'm
please-
concerned about children here,
Yes,
right across
you
the
can
street.
raise that question with the Planning and
Okay.
Zoning Commission when you go there.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Mr. Chairman, for the other question that that lady asked, it is the responsibility of the property owner to take care of it. If there's any spill, the town is not responsible for that. It's like they are responsible to clean up, and whatever DEP or EPA requires, they have to follow that. The town is not responsible for their spill on anything.
No, that sounds reasonable, except that I originally come from Waterbury, and we have lots of brown fields where people should have been responsible and walked off and left them. That's ideal, we're speaking of. Then you get into lawyers, which are expensive, long, drawn-out battles, and lots of times, people who didn't need to get stuck holding the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clear a little bit for the members of the public. This commission doesn't have jurisdiction over all those issues because these are something that we assume that in case if that happens. The commission is reviewing this plan in front of them. They are proposing a building with some parking lot with a driveway, and they are proposing that how they are going to manage the drainage on this site and what is the impact on the wetlands and how they are going to mitigate the impact on the wetlands. Those are the issues in front of the commission. If there is anything that is wrong with this design, like an engineering design or the mitigation plan that they have, the planting plan that they have, if you have any questions or you are questioning them, they are here to answer. But some of these issues, I mean, they are good concerns as a neighbor that you live in that neighborhood. But unfortunately, this commission doesn't have jurisdiction over those issues. The only thing that they have power is to regulate the impact on the wetlands. And the applicant provided this plan, and they hired a professional soil scientist. We have to listen to the professional people. If we claim that that doesn't work, then the burden of proof will be on us, that we have to hire another professional scientist to come here and fight with them to tell that you are wrong, this is going to happen. We cannot just assume that if something happens, this is going to be. That's unfortunately, we don't have like ultimate power to regulate everything. The only thing that they can regulate is wetlands and wetlands impact. But Planning and Zoning Commission, like this location is approved by zoning regulations. The use is approved for this lot. I mean, that's something for Planning and Zoning Commission. If you people want to go there and talk to them about safety and traffic, lighting, all those are planning and zoning issues. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public on this application? Any other questions for the commission? Make a motion to close it. Yeah.
I'll move that application 2021-18, that public hearing be closed.
Second?
Mr. Borghese, you can put your mask on, please? Because, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
There's just two items I'd like to bring in that are relevant to this. There's number one, I think we're all knowledge of the tanks that they put in the ground today compared to what they did 20 or 30 years ago are phenomenal. Double wall tanks, they have sensors in them for gasoline leaks. They are literally a wonderful, wonderful development. The other thing I'd like to mention, if possible, we do have a planning and zoning meeting coming up very soon. If this board could act on this, it would sure expedite that meeting, and I'd appreciate it if they would act. And I thank you very much.
Right, the motion is made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. 2, continuation of public hearing for application 2021-20 of Tiffany Akuda for the filling grading on an inland wetland area for the installation of a swing set and a fence and construction of a 12 by 20 deck within a regulated area, 12 Troll Lane Road, Watertown, Connecticut.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant called the office and she said that the entire family are sick and they didn't want to come to the meeting to make other people sick. But they said that they can join the meeting through Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me?
Mike? Okay.
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it's Tiffany Acuna from 12 Troll Lane Road.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
thank you.
We did receive a letter from Northwest Conservation on how to resolve this issue there. You obviously received that?
Yes, she came to the house a few weeks prior as for Mr. Paul's request. She was very helpful,
Right.
and I send that over to Musa.
Okay. And you had no issues with what she was recommending, what to be done there?
No, she was very kind.
Okay. Musa, do you have any other question on this?
No, Mr. Chairman, actually, I talked to Cynthia Rubinovitz, who wrote this letter to you, and I agree with the homeowner. As long as they just plant some vegetation in that area that they disturbed, I don't see any problem. For the deck and fence and the swing set, we issue a permit for them. Just don't forget that this application has basically two parts. One is like an order that you give them that they have to replant that area. And if they can use a recommendation from Cynthia, I will be satisfied.
Right.
That should be done in a shorter period of time, maybe by end of October if they can do that, like they have 2 months to do it. But for the deck and fence and swing set, I issued a permit that they are normally good for 5 years. It's up to them when they want to do it.
Any other questions from the commission on this? I'd make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll move that,
And one other, I'm sorry, before you say, I recommend that the planting plan that we received for other application from Dave Lord, I want to use this and give them a copy.
Well, we can bring that up in the motion, the second.
No, I just want them to know because they
Right, okay.
cannot talk. Yes. It is New England Erosion Control Restoration Mix. It is basically a seed mix that they put in that area. They will grow there. They don't have to mow that area. And I will make a copy of this and give it to the homeowner to use this and then plant that. There is no need for trees or shrubs to be planted
Right.
because there is a seed bank in the soil. Whatever natural vegetation was there, they will come back within a year or two, and we don't have to worry about it, as long as they don't mow that area.
I'll move it to close the public hearing for application 2021-20 of Tiffany Acuna.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Tiffany.
Oh, Musa, when will I get the permits? Will you mail those to me?
If they they're going to make a decision tonight, tomorrow I will mail it to you, yes.
Okay, so there's no more, I don't have any more like meetings, so to speak, right?
No, you
Later
don't
on
have to.
this meeting, we decide. This was just the public hearing part.
Oh, so do I have to stay on right now?
No.
No.
You can stay and listen.
I'm all done.
You're done.
You're done.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, take care.
Yeah. 3, application 2021-22 of Carmine Castellone for the construction of a new private road, 9 duplex age-restricted residential homes and associated driveways and parking 470 Straits Turnpike, Watertown.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. My name is Seth Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones and Associates, and represent the applicant. I was told that the plans will be on the screen.
I think Mike is trying to put them on.
While he's doing that, I can describe the property. The property is 4.92 acres, served by public water and sewer. It is occupied by 4 structures with an access drive and parking areas. Currently, the runoff has no formal drainage system. It flows south to north into a grass area and eventually into Waddles Brook.
Could you hold on one second? We need to read the legal notice.
There it is.
The Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency of the Town of Watertown will hold a public hearing at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, August 12th, 2021 at Watertown Town Hall, Council Chambers, 61 Echo Lake Road, Watertown, Connecticut, to hear and act upon the following application. Application 2021-22 of Carmine Castiglione for construction of a new private road, 9 duplex age-restricted residential homes and associated driveways and parking at 470 Straits Turnpike, Watertown, Connecticut. At this hearing, interested persons may be heard and written communications received. A copy of the application is on file at the Land Office at Watertown Town Hall, 61 Echo Lake Road, Watertown, Connecticut, dated at Watertown, Connecticut, this 29th day of July, 2021, dated Watertown, Connecticut, this 5th day of August, 2021, Edwin Dalton, Secretary, Conservation in the Wetlands Agency. Sorry, thank you.
Mike, are you working on getting the map up there? You can continue, sir.
Thank you. As I was saying, the property flows south to north into a grass area and eventually into Waddles Brook. The brook runs west to east. The property also has a wooded area in the west side of it and along the brook on the north side of the brook. The wetlands area is associated with the brook, and it is 24,476 square feet. During the sidewalk, it was noted that the review area should be measured from the top of slope. The new upland review area is 88,056 square feet, and the disturbance area proposed is 1,000 square feet. The proposal is to remove the existing structures and replace them with 9 duplexes, ranch style with garages and related infrastructure. There will be a new driveway, parking areas, water and sewer and drainage system will be installed. The new driveway will run generally in the same area of the existing one. The units are left and right of the proposed driveway with a cul-de-sac at the west end of the property. I had a color rendering of that, but I can point out to this for direction purposes. As you can see, north is up on the map. Straight Turnpike is to the right of the map. The proposed roadway runs from east to west into the property to a cul-de-sac. And units are proposed on either side of the proposed driveway. The existing brook is to the north along the street on the other side. And the wooded area associated with the brook runs parallel to the brook, and then it swings south onto the property where the cul-de-sac is proposed. The proposed drainage consists of a rain garden at the cul-de-sac, proposed catch basins and piping from the center of the site to a plunge pool, and a detention area which will be used as a silt basin during construction to a control structure which meters out the flow to a 56-foot long concrete level spreader. So up on the right corner in back of the units there, you'll see a proposed detention area, and the level spreader is to the north of it. It's on the just before the sanitary sewer easement in the grass area. The runoff from the level spreaders empties into a riprap area and then to a flat grass area north of it, and then eventually will flow over the banks into the brook. Inlet protections are proposed around the catch basins, riprap at the outlet, silt fence and mulch logs are proposed along the toe slopes. Erosion blankets will be used to create an immediate stabilizations of the steep slopes. The treatment train is deep sumps in catch basins, protection of inlets, silt fence, mulch logs, erosion checks dams in the swales, riprap plunge pool, silt basin, and level spreader. The existing impervious area is 0.5 acres, which consists of the driveway, parking area, and the existing structures. The proposed impervious area is 1.15 acres. 0.63 acres will go into underground storage units from the rooftops to the units, which are located next to the units. Each unit has an underground storage to catch the water from the roof, which is considered clean water, to alleviate the runoff and encourage water infiltration for groundwater. The rest of the runoff will be handled by the detention area, which will reduce peak runoff from the site by 32% at 100-year storm event and 45% at the 2-year storm event. Drainage clumps were provided with the application. All the appropriate notes and details are shown on the plans, including a construction sequence, who's responsible to maintain the erosion and sedimentation controls, and other elements of the project. David Lord delineated the wetlands. He also prepared the function and value assessment. At this point, if you have any questions, otherwise I'll have for a moment Dave describe the wetlands, the function of the wetlands, and the assessment.
Does this currently meet all of our zoning regulations?
I didn't review that from the zoning perspective.
I thought we could only do 6 on one like this without,
That's something that the Planning and Zoning Commission will look into that.
and how about, what do we have for open space?
The open space, we have the calculation, that there's a certain amount that needs to be dedicated to open space. It'll be the green areas along the brook on the west side of the property and in the back of the units and both sides of the units. So we'll have a certain percentage as required by the planning and zoning. I believe it's 20%.
You have 20% here now in the green, is that what you're saying?
Pardon?
You have 20% here now in this dark green, is that what you said? I missed that.
Do I have one?
The light green is the open space.
Oh, the light green, okay.
Yes, we do meet the 20%.
Right.
I believe on the plans, we indicate what the proposed
Right.
open space is.
And that retention's to a 100-year storm, correct?
That's right. And as I indicated, we reduced the runoff at the 100-year
Right.
by 32%. The drainage calculations are
Yeah.
attached.
And where's the 100-year storm line on Waddles Brook?
Where's what?
Where's the 100-year storm with Waddles Brook? Where's that? The brook that runs through here, a 100-year storm, where would it be projected to be?
Where's the elevation in the brook for the 100-year storm?
Yes,
We haven't calculated
Okay.
the elevation of the brook flow. What we're dealing is our flow that we generated from our site.
right.
Putting it into the detention area. The FEMA has undefined, without elevation, has an undefined line, and we have it shown on the map.
Do you want to go ahead with the environmental?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is David Lord, a professional soil scientist and environmental consultant. My company is Soil Resource Consultants. I have an office in Meriden, Connecticut. What I'm going to be talking about this evening is a document dated August 5th. I believe it's part of the application package. It's a function and values assessment for the wetlands on the property. As Sev has mentioned, this is a section of Waddles Brook, which flows along and through the northern portion of the site. The southern side of the brook has a very narrow band of wetland, which varies in width from practically 0 feet to as much as 10 or 15 feet in some areas. The wetlands per se are not substantial or significant on this particular site. The more important resource is the watercourse channel. The watercourse acts to provide the 2 primary functions within this wetland system. The first being flood flow attenuation. During large storm events, the brook will flow out of its banks, and the edge areas to the watercourse channel will provide some temporary volume attenuation and detention as it slows water passing through the outer bank portions of the brook. We're not going to have any effect on that because of the on-site detention, which Mr. Bavino has already described. The other function is wildlife habitat. This is a long linear system. It has a roadway to the north. It has a roadway a bit to the east. Those are diminishing factors in wetland wildlife habitat value. The positives are the source of water, which is more or less consistent or persistent in the channel. Wildlife would move to the channel as a water source. There's also berry-producing shrubs along the edges of the watercourse, food supply for wildlife habitat functioning. The brook connects off-site to the west, which is another positive effect. The overall effect of the development, in my opinion, is negligible because of the separation distance. The development takes place in the existing open grass mowed portion of the site. the development in its northern edge comes to the edge of the existing tree line, but does not remove any of that tree line in the northern edge to change that habitat in the uplands to Waddles Brook. The one area where trees are to be removed is in the area of the cul-de-sac loop at the end of the access drive and building, I believe it's 17 and 18, which is the upper left most building. Some tree removal, and in my report, I show you an existing tree line designation and the proposed one. That area will be cleared of existing trees. It's all upland. It doesn't create any activities closer to the wetland watercourse than the remaining portions of the site in their cleared condition behind the rest of the existing cleared grass lawn areas. And I guess in finality, I'll just read my concluding statement. In my professional opinion, the proposed development of this age-restricted development as presently configured does not represent a likelihood for significant adverse environmental impact to the existing functioning, the on-site wetlands and watercourse resources, or most importantly, their long-term functioning at present levels. With that, I will conclude and be happy to try to answer any questions that the members may have.
Anyone from the commission have any questions for the soil scientist? I think you're good. We'll have questions.
Thank you, Dave. Mr. Chairman, I just want to add that during the on-site, we were asked to define the area that will be used after the construction has taken place. So we propose a split rail fence that run parallel to the sewer easement on the north side of the sewer easement, which basically is where the underbrush was, and it's going to run westerly past the last two units. Also, we are proposing street plantings and plantings in the rain garden, and also around the units we have shrubs that will provide nesting and food for birds in the neighborhood.
Any members of the commission have questions on this?
One question I had, as far as the road, the way you designed, can you make this road a little straighter so all the units are a little bit up more? You know what I'm saying? Instead of road coming down, see how you have the curves on it? And the lower units, they're very close to the concerned area. If you make this road a little bit straighter, so all the units are there away from that brook.
Why can't you shift those units 50 feet and
Yeah.
move it all up 50 feet, get out of some,
Yeah.
you got a large area in the,
If
Just
you
a
look
question
at,
to see.
if you look at the grading plan, you'll see we need to cut the slope on the south side of those units. We already have a retaining wall proposed and a 2-to-1 slope. So we are limited. That's why there's that curve to allow that to happen.
So the left part of the road is too high, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh,
When you drive in, you'll see it goes up, and we have to cut that area. There's, if you look at the plan, there's quite a bit of a slope that we are cutting there, and a combination of retaining wall and 2-to-1 slope to make that happen, because we need to have a flat area around the units, and then we need to have drainage, so the water doesn't go into the house.
So the topography of the land will not allow you to do that, right? The units on the left will be too high. It's too much cutting.
Well, the cutting is based on the road grade. We have the proposed driveway road grades, and we have to balance the downside because it keeps on going down.
Right.
So that's what, it's a balancing act. We actually provided 10-foot high ceilings in the basement to be able to stay high.
I see.
And we have a walkout situation, so the natural grades in the back. And then on the upside, we'll have to have cut in the back as much as, let's see, 13 feet in some areas to create a backyard for those units.
I understand.
And then we got the slope.
any other questions from the commission?
I have a question. what fellow Commissioner Dalton brought up regarding the number of houses zoning allows at this point. Can you elaborate on that, Musa?
Sure, I will check that and let you know.
I mean, is it 6 currently?
This is a private road.
Okay.
This is not a public road. This is going to be private?
Private road, it
Yes,
would
I
be
have to
maintained
check
by
that to see
association.
how many.
Because we can only have 6. Why are we wasting our time on doing this right now? I mean, we should just
Wait,
get
No,
there.
you don't have to make a decision tonight.
Right.
You can
Okay, I'm saying,
continue,
because,
yes.
you know, that's a significant impact. If we're going to do that, then obviously you could just probably just do the north side of it and not have any issues.
I will check that for you for the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
so we'll keep the public hearing open, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have two questions. One is for you, and the southern part, if you see the map, the existing tree line and then a proposed tree line, why you have to cut those trees? I mean, what is the need for that?
On the southerly.
On the southern part, yes.
South
The southern
property.
property line, yeah.
The
See,
southerly
there is
part,
two tree lines. One is the proposed, one is the existing.
because of the proposed grades, if you look at the grading plan, it cuts through the trees a little bit.
Do you have to go that far? Do you have to go that far all the way to the
Yes,
property line?
Every solid line you see on the plan, it means a proposed grade, and it
I'm looking,
increases as
I'm
it
looking
goes.
at this map.
Well,
this
we
doesn't
submitted
show.
the entire plan, I can bring it there if you want.
Okay. No. You cannot avoid that to keep those trees? See, there is two.
These are the proposed.
This is the tree line.
Here's
They
the
want
road
to cut
straight
trees and
25
bring it
using
to
the
here.
proposed driveway. These are the units. These lines, you
Yeah.
get 2 foot, each line's 2 foot
6
rise.
units per acre.
So, and
Yeah.
the existing tree line is slightly in there. So when you do your grading, you're gonna end up, impacting those trees a little bit.
Losing the open space.
But it will be great if you can avoid that, to keep those trees there. It will be a buffer between the two properties, because the next property is a commercial property, and it's actually a good buffer for this development.
Yeah, we still leave a certain amount of trees in there. We'll leave it as many as possible. I mean, during the construction, before the construction, is gonna be a call to the town hall, where it's gonna have a meeting, a staff meeting with the developer. And they're gonna go through the steps of the process that we're gonna take. And we're gonna stake the limit of clearing, and the silt fence will be installed, or protection will be installed. At that time, you'll see, and if there's a chance to limit that impact there, we can do that, we will.
Okay.
You know, we are trying to keep a slope that's reasonable, so that we don't have erosion problems.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Dave. On the second page of your report, under flood flow attenuation, the last sentence said that this level of existing functioning will not be significantly impacted by the proposed development on this property. But is there any impact? I mean, if it's
The
not
stormwater
significant-
management profile for the detention basins and the groundwater infiltration will result in no net increase, actually a decrease from site-generated runoff. So we're going to have a lowering, and I'm a soil scientist, I can't tell you how much, but we're not dumping more water into the brook from this development. We're actually lessening the amount of water from its existing condition. So there'll be a positive effect by the development of this project over current conditions. When I say significant, I mean measurable.
Measurable, okay. It's not that, okay.
Yeah.
It's not that much.
No, you're not going to see inches or a foot change in
Changes.
anything to
Okay.
that. It's non-measurable. Minimal.
Okay. And how do you compare the existing impervious surface with the proposed? I mean, how much increase in the impervious surface area will be?
I did state that in the beginning. The increase is going to be, okay, the existing impervious is a half acre. The proposed impervious is 1.15 acres. An increase, 0.63 acres will go into the underground storage units, and the balance will be handled by the detention area.
By detention pond?
So you have almost half of the impervious being taken care of by the underground units. As I was saying, each of those units will have the underground storage.
The existing buildings and the driveway, everything is just sheet flow. It is the drainages. There is no system there, no? Everything just goes over the grass area
Right now.
right now.
Yes.
Right now, there's no formal drainage system. It goes straight down into the grass area in the brook.
But then this will be actually an improvement for the groundwater recharge
Yes,
because you are putting those underground systems.
underground storage, and we have a formal drainage system which will catch the water and will contain the water and be able to control the flow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we didn't get a report from the town engineer yet, and if you want to ask the members of the public to talk about this, if they have any questions, and then I want you to continue the public hearing.
Right. And Musa, you're gonna check with zoning, engineering, and access for the fire department on this road,
Yes,
safety.
yes.
Anybody from the public wishing to
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Paul Benevich, Town Engineer, if I may say
okay.
something. Sorry. I am present here virtually. Since I've been out of the office and haven't had a chance to review the drainage
Okay.
calculations, I've been listening to the engineer. I just want to make sure that somewhere in those calculations, he has the water quality volume addressed. It sounds like he does with the infiltrators and the rain garden. I just want to make sure that's in the report, because that was missing from one of the previous applications, and it got delayed a month because of that. So I believe this should be open till next month, but I don't
Right.
want to delay it any further.
We're gonna
That's-
continue the public hearing.
Okay. All right, thank you.
We'll make a motion.
Make a motion to,
Oh,
Anybody from the public wishing
From
to
the
speak?
public, yes.
yes,
Nobody from the public on this application? Thank you.
I move to continue the public hearing for application 2021-22 of Carmen Castiglione.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, they send notices
Yeah.
to all the abutting properties, and we receive the green cards from them.
Motion carries. We're going to continue now with the regular meeting. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on anybody from the public? Saying no. Action on the minutes. One, regular meeting, July 15th, 2021. Did everybody receive? No.
I received them, I didn't get a chance to read them.
The minutes, actually, Roseanne typed them, but I didn't get a chance
Right.
to review them. You will receive it before the next meeting.
All right. Let's make a motion.
to table action on minutes from July.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Pending application, application 1, 2021-5, Dennis and Rita O'Sullivan for a subdivision of a parcel of land and 2 building lots and construction of 2 single-family dwelling, associated driveway, on-site sewage disposal systems, and wells located on the northwest corner of Northfield Road and Smith Pond Road, Watertown. The application was withdrawn. You can read the letter in.
Both these mics are not working.
That one was working before.
It was working.
Yeah.
Don't rush. Yeah. So a letter from Dennis O'Sullivan to Watertown P and Z and Wetland Commission. Dear Mr. Benovich and Mr. Raffi, due to a personal tragedy in my family, I will not be able to continue my work to meet the requirements of the Wetlands and Zoning Commission. I hereby request that you withdraw this application until I can provide information your commission has requested. Also, I hereby request you waive application fee on my resubmittal. Thank you for your support in this request. If
I need to do it.
Oh, yeah, if I need to do anything further in this request, please advise. Signed, Dennis O'Sullivan, I believe it's 7/22/21. And that's regarding application 2021-5.
I was just going to make a motion to file.
Mr. Chairman, you need a motion to accept this letter to withdraw and
Correct.
also to waive the application fee for the future application,
If it's him.
if you, I'm
Right.
sorry?
Go ahead. Read that one.
Yes.
to make a motion to withdraw this application and waive any future request for application fee for Mr. Dennis O'Sullivan.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carried. Application 2021-18 of Alan Borghese for the construction of an 8,100 square foot building, 56 parking spaces, grading, drainage improvements within the upland review area, intersection of Echo Lake Road and Buckingham Street, Watertown. Any questions or comments from the commission on this?
Do we receive all the information that we request?
Yes, we did, yes.
Got everything?
Yeah.
He answered the drainage, right there? from-
Yes, and you received a
Yeah.
memo from the town engineer saying
Right.
that he was satisfied with the calculations in the design.
Can we can vote on this if there is no other issue?
You can make a decision on this tonight, yes.
All right, I'll move that application 2021-18 of Alan Borghese for construction of 8,100 square feet building, 56 parking spaces, grading and drainage improvement within upland review area and intersection of Echo Lake Road and Buckingham Street, Watertown, be approved, subject to the standard conditions.
And I want to add few more conditions in addition to the standard conditions. And number one is a wetland performance bond shall be posted for ENS controls and the construction of the detention pond and the wetland mitigation area. That make sure that they build that.
Okay, so
That
that-
should be bonded, yes. And number two, the the driveway has to be pervious pavers, as we discussed it before, and they have to do that if they want to build it. And also, all wetlands area, including in the eastern part of the property, should be a conservation easement. And when the commission approved a restaurant for this property, at that time, you also asked for a conservation easement to be placed on that area behind the building. Other than that,
Okay, so
Feel comfortable
I'll
adding it now, or
include
do you
that.
want to do a draft motion?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel comfortable doing it now, or would you like to have a draft motion for
No,
next meeting?
that, I feel comfortable.
Okay, so
As long
I
as
will
these are a
include-
part of the motion.
I will include your comments to my motion. Okay, so.
Was there a
so it'll be
second?
part of the motion.
I'll second Joe's motion with Moose's comments.
Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 3, application 2021-20 of Tiffany Akuda for filling and grading of a inland wetland area for the installation of a swing set fence and construction of a 12 by 20 deck within a regulated area. You said you were going to include the,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you can make a decision
Yeah.
on that.
The
The only
seeding.
thing that I recommend is, there are like two parts to this application. One is the planting of that area. I think they need like some time to do it, maybe by end of October, like 2.5 months, they have time to do it.
that'll be written on the,
Yes, if you make a motion to approve this, it should be
Right.
subject to that the
Yeah.
planting should happen by end of October, and then the rest will be approved, like the swing set, the deck, and the fence.
But do we have
Can we
a
make it-
planting, do we have a planting plan?
The swing set, you said that it will be on the other side of
It's
the
already
house.
there, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we make it end of September for the planting? Because end of October, if they plant it last day, you're not gonna get much growing.
I give them that much time, that in case if they cannot do it, but that's the maximum time that they have. Within that period, they can do it tomorrow if they want.
you want to make that a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Do
get
the
it, but,
motion then.
yeah.
Do the motion.
Say the recommendation.
No, we'll do something.
Did you refer to the recommendation simply within in the motion?
Yes.
Motion to approve application 2021 of Tiffany Acuna for filling grading of inland wetland area and plantation of inland wetland seed by September 30th, 2021.
Plus the report of Northwest Conservation to be included in there.
Plus the report of the Northwest Conservation, and approval of the fence and deck and swing set.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, any abstention, motion carries. For application 2021-22 of Carmine Castellone for the construction of a new private road, 9 duplex age-restricted residential homes and associated driveways, and parking at 470 Straits Turnpike, Watertown. We just need a motion to table.
Make a motion, we table the application number 2021-22 of Carmen Castiglione.
Second.
Do we want to do a sidewalk with it?
We already had a
We
second.
did.
Saturday.
We did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion's made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. New application, application 2021-25 of Christine Lamas for repair and reconstruction of damaged retaining wall within a regulated area, 188 Falls Avenue, Oakville, Connecticut.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
I'm Christine Lamas, I'm the owner at 188 Falls Avenue in Oakville, and I submitted an application for a permit because following the storm on July 17th, the water caused significant damage to the retaining walls on both sides of the property that Turkey Brook cuts through, and as well as the bridge that connects the two pieces of property.
There's actually a video, if we can see that, that the commissioner see how bad the flood was behind this property. That was the situation and how this damaged the retaining wall that they have. I actually went there, Mr. Chairman, today to see the situation, and this is something that has to be repaired. There is no other alternative to do that. There's a very limited area within the water course that they have to fix it.
So this is like an emergency
This is an emergency
situation, right?
repair,
We gotta-
correct.
And my recommendation is that you shouldn't wait until next month. If you authorize me to issue a permit to fix this retaining wall after 14 days from tonight,
Yes.
I will be glad to
Right.
issue the permit for them
Yeah.
to do it. Because this is something that has to be done.
Right, make a motion.
I make a motion to approve application 2021-25 of Christine Lamas for repair, reconstruction of a damaged retaining wall within regulated area at 188 Falls Avenue, Oakville.
Second.
14 days after tonight.
Yes,
That I will issue the permit.
Motion made
And
and
it should be
second.
subject to standard conditions.
Yes.
Yes.
And also, the work should be done when the flow in the brook is minimum.
Yes.
Other than that, will be out of control. You cannot control that much water in the brook.
So, sir, my name is Bill Schultz. I'm a heavy construction engineer, and I'm a registered professional civil engineer in Connecticut. I plan to be doing the work, and I wrote the scenario of what to do to fix the problem. So you're giving us permission to have a track machine in the river during low flow to be able to fix the problem?
Yes, whatever you ask for in
Right.
the application,
Yes.
the commission make the
Very good.
decision tonight, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we made a motion, it was second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All
You
opposed?
have to wait 14 days
Yeah.
because the commission cannot, yes.
You want to be notified when we start the work?
After 14 days, I will issue the permit and then you can start the work.
Great, sir. Thank you. The commission's excellent. Thank you very much.
The sad thing is it's gonna happen again. That's the worst part of that, but,
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah.
You're welcome.
To application 2126 of Boulder Ridge Construction LLC for the transfer of a permit 2020-2 from Hayes Ranch LLC to Boulder Ridge Construction LLC.
Good evening. My name is Jim Zappone, and I reside at 62 Long Horizon Road in Bethlehem, Connecticut. And I'm requesting, I purchased this piece of property from Alan Hayes, which is, he owns Hayes Ranch LLC, and I'd like to transfer the name from Hayes Ranch to myself, Boulder Ridge Construction.
This was that's the lot on the corner of Morristown, like, we went and did a site, that's the lot, right?
Yeah,
All right.
it's, yeah.
That triangular
Right.
shape, yes.
Yes.
For this, you can make a decision tonight,
Right.
make a motion to transfer the permit subject to the original conditions of approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. 3, application 2021-27 of the Taft School for dredging, maintenance of 2 ponds at 110 Woodbury Road, Watertown.
Hello, Dave Pope, 85 Northwest Drive, Watertown, for the applicant. There's 2 small ponds. Sent Musa some pictures. I hope you guys got them. An aerial view from Google Earth, actually. And they're between Woodbury Road and the tennis courts. And one is a full-blown retention pond at the to the right of the picture, if you're looking at it. It's filling in. It's time to clean it out. And the one up above that is a smaller pond, and probably about 2 to 3 feet deep at the deepest point. About maybe 30 feet wide, maybe 50 feet long. The other one might be 50 by 60, the true retention pond. It's got a couple outlet structures in there, and they're filled in with silt and weeds and vegetation, and they'd like to get them cleaned out.
And they've
So-
had significant flooding there too, correct, in these areas?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I wasn't there during the last storm,
No,
so.
I think they did, yeah. I would make a motion to make a motion.
This is a dredging
Right.
existing ponds and
Yeah.
for maintenance only. You can authorize
Yeah.
me to issue the permit in 14 days. There is no need to wait
No,
another month.
right.
Yes.
Let's get it done.
So
I'm going to
moved.
make a motion, we accept application 221-27 of Taft School for dredging and maintenance of 2 ponds at 110 Woodbury Road, Watertown, subject to standard conditions.
Second.
With the, with Musa having the authority to issue the permit in 14 days.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Pope.
Thank you.
Old business, notice of violation issued to the owner of 30 Jericho Road, Watertown. 2, notice of violation issued to the Watertown Fire District concerning regulated activities conducted on a district property, Judd Farm Road.
Please table these items, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll move that, what happened with this? So, in other words, the attorney cannot do anything with this?
No, because we issued, one of them, because we issued a permit to do work, so
Right.
he has 5 years to do the work.
Yeah.
We were advised to do that, we
Right.
should have been.
Yeah.
And
The other one's in court.
The other one is in
court,
litigation.
so
It's in court, yes.
Yeah.
nothing to do about that.
Motion to second, old business 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Motion made second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. 3, discussion on application review process by the agency.
We don't have anything at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Right, we'll bring that up under bylaws. Is it kind of,
If you want, yes.
right? Does it make a motion to table that?
We included the first one? I make a motion, we table item 3.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Communications and bills. 1, conflict of interest and pre-deposition in Connecticut land use law by Richard P. Roberts, Esquire, Holland Sage LLP, dated March 6, 2021. That was included in our packet,
Yes,
correct?
Mr. Chairman, I give you a hard copy of this presentation, which
Right.
is very informative for all of you to please read. And item second is audiovisual, this presentation in audiovisual, and Mike is going to put that on the,
I see there's a Watertown case in there, huh?
yes, there's a lot of examples here.
Oh.
Mike, can you
Yeah.
put the presentation? It's about conflict of interest.
A movie, yeah.
I'm not getting it, I'm cold.
Roseanne, turn up the heat.
Can you turn on the heat?
Great, didn't know you can talk so fast. Next up is going to be Rich Roberts, who's going to discuss conflict of interest and predisposition. Rich is also a partner at Howard & Sage. He frequently represents municipalities in real estate acquisitions and sales, land use matters, charter review and revisions, drafting, review of ordinances, FOIA, and election enforcement matters and property tax issues. Rich, you want to
All right.
appear before us here? There you are.
All right. Thanks very much, Eric. Last week before, Mike and I were comparing notes on whether or not we thought it was worth doing a PowerPoint presentation, and basically he talked me out of it. Now I see that he did one. Mine wouldn't be as good, so and mine frankly isn't as my presentation doesn't require PowerPoint to the same degree that his does. I also find that my success with technology is inversely proportional to the number of people watching, so we would have been doomed today. The materials that I'm going to cover today, I hope you find them to be useful and informative. I think they're going to be relevant to each of you, regardless of which type of commission that you serve on, and they should have practical application to both you as commissioners and to your staff. The three subjects that I'm generally going to try to cover are the broad subject of conflict of interest, including both actual and perceived conflicts of interest. The second part is the related issue of predisposition and bias. And to the extent that we still have time at the end, I'll touch briefly on ex parte communications. The central theme of all of these different subjects is how in your process you maintain the integrity of the process, the land use application and decision process, and more specifically, ensuring that the public's perception of that process is that it is fair and unbiased. The materials kind of summarize in bullet points, dozens of cases which describe a broad array of fact patterns. What you find in those is that there are a relatively limited number of black and white answers. A lot of them are, in the gray area, and, it depends is the appropriate answer. There isn't enough time to cover each of those decisions in meaningful detail, so I'll, leave you at your leisure to kind of skim through them and, see what the general themes are. One of the things that is somewhat frustrating about them is that, you look at the summary, you look at the facts, and from one case to the next, it might reach a different conclusion. That sort of highlights the importance of the factual context in which each of the, these situations arises, and, how you kind of need to evaluate the facts and circumstances of each situation, as you approach them to determine whether or not there's a potential conflict of interest, and, if so, whether it's one that, would require a recusal or could be problematic to the commission's action. Sort of as an overall statement, generally, courts have been rather reluctant to overturn decisions of commissions or commission members unless people have acted really badly. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some guidance as to what sorts of things you need to be aware of in the context of trying not to behave really badly. That's the good news. The bad news is that given that courts are all so, equally supportive generally of commissions in terms of finding that their decisions are supported by the evidence and not holding them to kind of incredibly or unreasonably strict standards in terms of how they reach their decisions. The flip side is that people raise the conflict of interest or predisposition claims relatively frequently, just because that, that sort of gets them into the court when they really don't have a leg to stand on with respect to either substantive or procedural issues. One of the other things to bear in mind as we go through these is that how you conduct yourselves during the course of the hearings and otherwise how you conduct yourself in public, both the tone and substance of the communications are very important, because at the end of the day, the decision whether you were or were not predisposed against or in favor of a particular application is going to be made by someone who wasn't at the hearing, who doesn't know you, who may never have been to your town, who's wearing a black robe and simply reading the typed out black and white words of the transcript. So something that looks benign or harmless or funny, in the setting of having a live or virtual discussion on an application may look completely different when it's typed out and being read out of context. So first, let's talk about the concept of conflict of interest. I mean, this probably would have been the only needed PowerPoint slide for this whole section of the materials. There are statutory definitions for conflicts of interest that are found in the statutes. Page 201 of the materials sets forth a couple of them, 811 and 821, which are the provisions that apply to zoning commissions, zoning board of appeals, and planning commissions, and by extension, combined commissions. There's a similar provision, 22A 42 paren C, that deals with conflicts of interest for Wetlands Commission, and there's kind of a general basket provision, statute section 7148T, which deals with conflict of interest for land use commissions generally and agencies with purchasing jurisdiction. So, if you are or are not looking at section 811, there's a lot to unpack there, but the gist of it is essentially into two parts. The first part talks about that no member of the zoning commission shall appear for or represent any person, firm, corporation, or other entity in any matter pending before the Planning and Zoning Commission, Planning Commission, Zoning Commission, or ZBA, regardless of whether or not you're a member of the particular agency. And I think what they're trying to do there, this is the legislature passed this decades ago. What they're trying to do, obviously, is prevent someone who might be, an architect, an engineer, an attorney, a realtor or so forth, who serves on a land use commission from recusing themselves during an application, hopping out of their chair, walking around the podium, and presenting the application on behalf of someone else. The perception there was, that's just a little bit too cozy, and that, that there's potential for mischief there. It applies to any one of the basic land use type agencies, regardless of whether you're on it. So if you are, just pick an example, an attorney who's on the Planning and Zoning Commission, you can't go represent an applicant in front of the ZBA in your same town, or vice versa. The second part of 811, let me finish one other thought on that, is that the key thing in this part of the statutory prohibition is appearing for or representing essentially someone else. If you are an applicant before your own commission or an applicant before one of the counterpart land use agency commissions in your town, you probably have not lost your First Amendment and property rights to participate in front of the agency. However, you have lost the right to participate in the deliberation, the hearing, and the decision on the application where it directly affects you. One of the things that happens quite frequently in situations like that is where the commission member is personally interested in a particular application, representing their own interests. They have either an agent or a spouse or a family member or some other representative make the appearance and the presentation on their behalf, just to avoid making it look like that there's some influence or attempt to influence by a counterpart land use agency in the same town. The second part of 811 is the one that has more kind of components to it. In addition to the representing another, it has a provision that no member of a zoning commission or board, planning and zoning commission, or the ZBA shall participate in the hearing or decision of their own board on any matter in which he or she is directly or indirectly interested in a personal or financial sense. So let's just kind of back that up and break it down into pieces. You can't participate if you have a direct or indirect personal or financial interest. You can't participate in the hearing or the deliberations or the decisions of your board. And that generally requires you to recuse yourself. And, depending on the nature of the conflict of interest, what constitutes recusal may vary. Back in the olden days when we actually had in-person meetings and people would go to a town hall, it would quite often mean you got up and left. And whether you went to the back of the room, whether you went into the hallway, whether you went into these things that we used to have called bars, it was kind of up to you, but you had to make it clear to both the members of the commission and to the public that you were not participating in the deliberation. There have been cases cited in the materials where, the person who's recusing themselves sat up at the table during the course of the deliberations, and was giving the evil eye and, tapping their fingers and pointing at people and so forth. And in a recent case involving planning and zoning in Clinton, the court found that even though the unseated alternate who had the clear conflict of interest was, essentially behaving himself, they pointed out that, right before the vote was taken, he went and pointed at the chairman who was casting the deciding vote. So, perceptions on things like that are truly important. All right, so enough on that. The question of whether you have a direct or an indirect interest is another subject for discussion. If you're directly interested, meaning you own the property, you own the business, you're selling the property, you're going to be doing the engineering work on the project, those are the kinds of direct interests in the application that, clearly are a disqualifier. Indirect interest in an application, that's a little more amorphous. And in that case, you probably have to look at and break out the personal or financial sense to get, maybe a context of what an indirect interest would be. An indirect interest in a financial sense could be, if you're a shareholder in Eversource and there's an application to put in a power line, yes, you have an indirect interest in the outcome of that application because as one of the, 22 million shareholders of Eversource, you may benefit if, if they're more profitable. But the analysis there is whether your interest is substantially greater than it would be for a relatively significant segment of the community. So, as a shareholder in Eversource, as a taxpayer in your community, if something's coming in where property, the grand list is going to triple and your taxes will theoretically go down, yes, you have an indirect or even potentially direct financial interest, but it is the same as a substantial segment of the population. If the proposed use is one that's going to potentially adversely affect an area of town, and you and 25% of the other residents in town are near that use and may be affected by it, then the question gets a little bit closer as to whether your indirect interest in a financial or personal sense is one that would require disqualification. So, you need to be a little bit sensitive to that sort of thing. If on the other hand, the project is directly across the street, it's more likely that you would have a direct interest in the application. The analysis of whether someone has a personal interest in the application, that also is a relatively complicated analysis. Is it a close family member? Is it a close friend? Is it an organization that you belong to? Is it your church or something like that? And again, I think the thought process should be whether the particular application is going to affect you to a greater degree than it will a substantial segment of the community, and whether, and that's all on a, case-by-case basis based on, how big your community is and what type of organization it might be. Unfortunately, there's no clear answer until after the fact and someone has challenged you on it. Again, there's a similar provision that applies to wetlands commissions. And the courts essentially, take the black letters of the law and apply them to the particular situation. One other thing that's worth mentioning quickly is that quite often cities and towns have their own ethics codes or ethics ordinances that may have additional or more restrictive definitions as far as what constitutes a financial interest or a personal interest in an application. So if you're in a town that has a conflict, an ethics ordinance, and you're in a situation where you've been kind of tipped off, at least in your mind, to the possibility that that's something that could be relevant, you'll want to look at that as well. I'll just kind of skip over some of the other things. One of the important points to make is that, in the absence of compelling circumstances to the contrary, if someone is going to successfully raise the claim that a member or member of the commission has a conflict of interest, the claim must be raised at the time of the hearing. Absent hiding facts from the public, you can't first raise the potential claim of a conflict of interest once you get to court. One other kind of twist on that is that you don't necessarily, if you're the person who's trying to make the claim, you don't necessarily have to be the one who raised it at the commission level. You can pick up someone else's claim and run with it, but it has to have been raised at that time. And as with so many things, as with predisposition, the burden is on the person trying to prove the conflict of interest that you behaved inappropriately, because the presumption is that municipal officials behave in a legal and proper way. The first case that came down, which prompted the statute, is Lowe versus Madison. It's sort of the glaring conflict of interest where there was an application by a woman, and the regulations under in effect at that time required a unanimous vote. She got the unanimous vote, and the chairman of the commission was her husband. So there was a finding by the court that there was, a conflict of interest, that, the administration of the power of zoning demands the highest public confidence, and that kind of situation tends to weaken the confidence and undermine the security that people need to feel in how their government is being run. One of the other things that's important to bear in mind is that at the end of the day, an actual conflict or a perceived conflict of interest is just as significant and damning as an actual conflict of interest. If it's the type of situation where the public perception is that the fix was in or someone should not have participated, even at the end of the day, there is no technical violation of the statute. You have to bear in mind that, the public perception is tremendously important because, at the end of the day, the expectation is that there will have been a fundamentally fair hearing. Courts have also basically, when they're finding no conflict of interest, have said that, or have acknowledged that in small towns, it's likely that there are relationships which exist, and that you can't expect local government to function where people have no participation with one another or participation with their property or their activities within their town. So there is a reasonable expectation that there will be situations that could tend to create a conflict of interest. It's worth noting that the decision on whether or not to recuse is one that must be made by the commission member themselves. They can be kind of led to that conclusion, but you can't take a vote of the commission and say, we think Ted should recuse himself. He has a conflict of interest. All in favor say aye. Ted's the one who has to make that decision himself. If you recuse yourself, you want to identify that on the record. You don't necessarily have to say why. Sometimes it's probably better not to say why. I think the applicant is, a liar and a crook. So I'm going to recuse myself from this application. Probably does more harm than good. Moving on to predisposition and bias. The key things here are that the expectation is that when someone comes in with an application, that they are going to get a fair hearing. What you need to bear in mind and what you need to look out for are statements made by commission members indicating prior to the opening of the hearing that they have made their mind up irretrievably on a particular application. So, the fact that someone may appear uninterested as the hearing goes on, may be kind of testy or cranky or adversarial to the applicant during the course of the hearing, that's the sort of thing that quite often leads to the claim of a predisposition or bias or but what essentially has to be proven is that the board, the commission member had made their mind up before the public hearing began. And, unfortunately, there are plenty of cases out there where commission members have provided strong evidence that they've made their mind up before the hearing began. Someone recusing themselves saying, what, I don't even want to hear your application, and then later on coming back and participating in the deliberation was found to be impermissible. The kind of related issue of bias, that also, in addition to being biased against a particular applicant, also involves the potential where you're biased in favor of or against a particular person or position the prejudgment relates more to the application. And in either case, it's important, particularly for bias, that the commission members not create an atmosphere of hostility, be especially attuned to how your statements may be interpreted by someone reading them later on. References to, religious or ethnic or racial or disability or religious types of considerations in the context of either applicants or applications, things that are protected by the Constitution or by, fair housing statutes or otherwise, are the kinds of things where commissions and commission members can really get themselves into trouble, unintentionally. So those are the sorts of things that you really need to pay particular attention to under the heading of bias. Again, going back to predisposition, again, the courts have been realistic about this, and they essentially say nobody who's going to, either run for office or agree to serve on a land use commission, it's unreasonable to expect that they have no opinions whatsoever about the proper development of their communities. And in fact, they probably would be kind of poor choices to serve on the planning and zoning, ZBA and wetlands, if they had no thoughts at all about the proper development of their communities. Again, what the decisive question is whether in advance of the hearing, the commission member or the commission as a whole had made their mind up that they were going to approve or deny the particular application regardless of any changes, agreements, changes or arguments or information that they tend to be heard during the course of the hearing. Sort of a nuance on this is when commissions are acting in the legislative capacity and they're providing their own application for a zone change. There it's harder to demonstrate or harder to prove that you have no opinion about the application because you're the ones, presenting it. But the fact that you're putting it up for a hearing, bear in mind and try to convey to the public the impression or the perception that although this is our application, we are here to listen and get the feedback from members of the public as to whether this is a good application, should we change it, and so forth. People also may have a little bit of difficulty if they've run for a planning and zoning commission in an elected office, and they ran on the no Walmart ever party. They may have difficulty when Walmart's application comes in and may be asked to recuse themselves. But again, I think, the important point in that situation is that at the opening of the hearing, if the person intends to participate, make it clear that although my, general opinion on this subject has been made clear, I'm certainly willing to listen and consider all of the information that's being presented. The cases are really interesting there. The last thing, again, really quickly on ex parte communication. By definition, ex parte communication is any conversation, discussion, communication outside of the context of the public meeting or the public hearing. And, as a general rule, it should be avoided. As a practical matter, unless you live in, the last year hasn't been a good example of living in a bubble. You have to go out into your community. You have to interact with other people who may have opinions on what's in front of you. You're standing there putting gas into your car and someone, tells you that they think it's the stupidest application they've ever seen. Just kind of nod and smile, say, come to the hearing and tell us what you think there. You're out at dinner and one of your friends says, and they're the 57th person to tell you that they think the subdivision proposal is the worst thing ever. It's like, okay, come to the hearing and talk about it. But those kinds of conversations are to be expected, and they're not especially problematic unless the information that you're getting from those communications are prejudicial to the applicant, or that they're evidentiary, meaning it's information that is substantive information that would affect your decision-making process. And it's one that type of information that the applicant or the opponents or the member of the public should have the opportunity to explain or to hear or so forth. So to the extent that the hearing is still open, you want to disclose those kinds of communications into the public record so that, that all of the members of the public, the applicant, the opponent, and so forth, have the opportunity to appropriately respond to it so that any taint from you having heard that information can be cleansed. Where the information comes in after the close of the hearing, sometimes it can be problematic and so forth. And if, worst case scenario, you've heard something that you can't unhear, or you've seen something you can't unsee, that profoundly affects your opinion on the matter, but it can't be brought into the record effectively, you may have to recuse yourself. But as with all the conflict of interest, predisposition, and ex parte subjects, talk to the chairman of your commission, talk to the staff handling your commission, and talk to the town attorney so that you have an opportunity to make sure that you're not going it alone, and you get a little bit of guidance in terms of making your decision in a way that protects both you and the commission's decision, as well as the public perception of the integrity of the process. And with that, I will stop.
Rich, that was great. Next up, we have procedural issues in the municipal land use process by Peter Olson. He's an attorney at Land Use and Conservation Council. He represents property owners before local administrative agencies, advises municipalities in the consideration of applications for property development, represents municipalities and property.
Three memorandum from the town manager dated August 1st, 2021 regarding town council boards and commissions and meetings. The secretary read that in the opening about the policy on masks and amount of people in a meeting. Reports from officers and committees, chairman's report.
Mr. Chairman, you make a motion to accept and file item 1 and 3.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Reports from officers and committees, chairman's report. The bylaw committee is working on the revisions, which you will see. I think the next charge of maybe the bylaw committee would be to look into the revising or working on our regulations.
Mr. Chairman, the changes that the subcommittee made, they are highlighted in this report.
Right.
If all the commission members are agree, if you don't propose any other changes, we will put that in the bylaws and give it to you the next meeting to make a motion to approve.
Right, as soon as he's done with his report, I'll read him.
I'm sorry?
As soon as the chairman's done with his report, I'll read him.
Okay.
Right. And like I said, I think we discussed that we need to work on the regulations after the bylaws.
You will appoint a subcommittee?
I think we'll appoint the bylaw committee.
Okay.
Okay, report of the bylaw committee. We met last week and we read through all the minutes. We had some minor changes we proposed. The changes we propose are article number 4, membership. We are proposing to have it, basically the second paragraph, the Conservation Inland Wetland Agency will request the Watertown Town Council seek the resignation of any commission member who fails to attend 3 consecutive regular meetings without good cause. Such request will be made only after 2/3 vote of the, and this is where the change is, voting members of the entire commission for the language read of all the members, including alternates. So we want to propose a change so it's voting members of the entire commission only. The next change that we are recommending or proposing is a new section under Article 5. We're titling it Section 9, and it's to read as follows: conflict of interest and predisposition. In accordance with sections 22A-42C of the Connecticut General Statutes, all commission members shall follow the following statute. Statute reads, the quote that we're having in here is, no member or alternative member of the board or commission shall participate in the hearing or decision of such board or commission of which he is a member upon any matter in which he is directly or indirectly interested in a personal or financial sense. In the event of such disqualifications, such facts shall be entered on the records of such board or commission, and replacement shall be made from the alternate members of an alternate to act as a member of such commission in the hearing and determination of the particular matter or matters in which the disqualifications arose. And again, that's directly out of the statutes. Another recommendation we're saying is that under Article 9, under hearings, Section 3, a competent stenographer shall take the evidence, or the evidence shall be recorded by a sound recording device. We propose to add and audio-visual if operable. Next proposal is Article 10, Section 4. The paragraph reads, its chairperson shall first call for statements from the proponents. The opponents shall be given equal opportunity comment. The order is reversible at the discretion of a majority of the commission members. We're saying the commission members present. Next change we're proposing, Article 11, Section 3. Proposing adding it, the wetland enforcement officer shall attend all commission meetings. In the absence of the wetland enforcement officer due to illness, personal or disqualification reasons, the land use administrator shall attend the commission meetings. Currently, the regulations read it should be and or the wetlands enforcement officer and land use administrator. We don't need both. It's a waste of town resources, so we propose that it just be the wetland enforcement officer. And if he can't make it, we propose the land use will come in. The last one we have is another Section 4 under Article 11. The town engineer will attend when needed at the discretion of the wetlands enforcement officer and the chairperson. Our logic of that is basically it's a waste of town resources to have them here at every single meeting. It allows applicants to have access to an engineer basically at our expense. And I think it's just it makes sense overall to limit it to that. So that's what we're proposing.
Everybody's agree with these changes and no more proposed changes, then you can make a decision tonight, and then we will finalize them, give it to you.
I just have one, on section 4, on page 8 there. Town engineer will attend when needed at the discretion of the wetlands enforcement officer and the chairperson. Like, is the wetlands enforcement officer gonna let him know, like, before the meeting, like, hey, I think we're gonna need you for this meeting?
Yes.
Or, okay, or is it gonna be, I just don't want it to be the situation where like, yeah, hey, we'd really love the engineer.
Well, you can't tell them after.
Yeah, well, that's, I just wanted to make sure.
Because sometimes you see on your agenda, there's like 4 or 5 applications
Right.
that
Yeah.
they're all minor things,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there is
yeah.
no need for the town
Right.
engineer. But in case if there is a larger application with drainage calculations and stuff and design, then I will tell them that the commission
Right.
wants you to be at the meeting.
Yes.
Or it's a town application.
I'm sorry?
Or it's a town permit.
Yeah, that is up to
Right.
the department that who they send.
Right.
It
Yeah.
can be the town engineer or somebody else
Right.
from their department.
Right. Any other questions or clarifications or comments?
Should the part with the conflict of interest say what the statute is?
It did.
Yeah.
I think we said,
It doesn't list the statute 811.
section 22A
Oh, right, but
of the
doesn't
Connecticut
part
General
of-
Statutes.
You took it on that now.
That's what they quoted. We correct it if you want, but and it kind of syncs with what was still was in
Yeah,
this
no, it
article.
says exactly what the article, but.
Yeah, so it is a direct quote of the Connecticut statutes.
If there is no more changes or suggestions, you can make a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve bylaws, Conservation Commission, and Wetland Agency revisions.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Thank the bylaw committee for your work. Reports from staff. Application 2021-23 of Ruth Glasser for the repair of an existing septic system within the upland review area, 519 Sunnyside Avenue. And B, application 2021-24, Michelle Overton for the construction of a new 12 by 24 shed to replace a 10 by 10 shed in the upland review area.
Mr. Chairman, I approve these applications. I decided that there are minor activities.
Right.
If you can see
Yeah.
the one with the septic system, it is at the end of the property that there is no more room to keep it further away from the wetlands. And the wetlands is here, and the septic, the leaching field is in the end of the property. They had to repair this, and there was no more room
Need a motion.
to change it.
Just need a motion, right? I think.
Make a motion to,
You don't need a
No,
motion for
no,
that. It was just a
no, all
request.
right. Public participate, anybody from the public wishing to speak? Yes.
Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place. Will the bylaws be part of the minutes so that I can, you know, when you put them online, so I can see what changes were made? I know a lot of times you do that. Because it
No,
was,
this will be this is public information. If you are asking for a copy, we'll give you a copy.
no, but I mean,
We are
is
not
it-
going to put the entire things in the minute.
but are the bylaws online, though? I can find them when you make the changes?
Yeah, we can put it online.
Okay.
Yes.
Eventually, I'll look at that. So, you know, I thought that the presentation was obviously very interesting, and I don't know if you took away from it what I took away from it, but, you know, very rarely, especially with wetlands, does a case go to court, and does a lot of what he was describing about conflicts of interest and whatever. You know, when he said the man in the black robe who doesn't come to the meetings, well, that doesn't really happen that often, but what does happen very often is the public perception. So I would say to all of you that rather than consider what you're doing that, well, you know, it's never going to be heard by a judge because nobody's going to sue us, I think the major message that should be paid attention to was the public's perception. I don't really think it's effective very much in your commission, but it is in a lot of other ones. However, I do want to say that based on the change that you just made, I was late to the last meeting, and I haven't attended a couple of these meetings, but when I read in the paper what happened to Tiffany Acuna and Josh Acuna, I was very interested, because Josh Acuna was practically like another son of mine. He played soccer with my son for years. So I know them very well, and I felt really badly for them. So I took an interest in what happened on that property. It was pretty hard for me to understand that two lots were combined, two lots full of wetlands that were combined enough so that one house could be squeezed on it, and they're on an island basically surrounded by wetlands. So I wanted to come to the last meeting just to see if something was going on with it. And when I walked in, they were already up here talking because I was late. But what bothered me was that the seller of the property, Mr. Tupons, didn't recuse himself. I perceive that as a problem. It's an indirect interest. Whether or not the property was already sold, there was an interest in that property as the seller of that property. Because there was potential for legal action there, there's a lot of issues there. Those are the kind of things, and it's up to the person to recuse, but what I'm saying is, when you don't recuse, when you don't do these things, it looks bad to us out here. And I don't really know what the interest was to even, participate with that. But it looks bad to the public, and it's bad for Watertown, and it's bad for people like me who tell people what I see and think is bad. So, I keep trying to tell people I don't want to do what I do. I don't want to talk about the things that I see, but I see them. And I just, it could be much cleaner here in town. Just think about what we see out here in the audience, because I think that's what he was trying to say, is that it's the perception of the public. He said it once, that it was the perception of the public that's very important. You're not going to go to court. You're not going to have a judge decide probably anything that takes place with your commission over the next 10 years. But the public is going to decide in their mind how they feel, what they see. Thank you.
Catherine,
Thank you.
can I respond?
No comment through the chair. There's no comment.
Oh, to you?
Yes.
Absolutely. What is the statute of limitations on a circumstance like that? What if a commission member sells a house that they owned, and then there's an issue subsequent to these issues? Where do you draw the line? There was no benefit on my behalf in regard to that property. And if you review the record, I did not say a word about that property. All right, so to me, there was no conflict there. There could be conflicts from any one of us in circumstances like that.
Again, her issue was clearly the look of impropriety. That's all she was saying. Which is what he indicated.
And
the actual and apparent authority.
And I'm giving other examples that Ned can sell his house tomorrow, and next month that person can do something where they have to come before one of the commissions. And that can happen anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, and it's,
That impropriety had to do with some type of a financial benefit, of which there was zero. So I don't believe it was an impropriety. I think that was an incorrect description of that circumstance.
And like the guy on video said, on a small town like this, sometimes it's impossible not to have some kind of connection to something, and it's up to us to determine whether that's where we have to recuse ourselves or not. But it'd be very rare for all of us to not have some kind of connection to something that comes up here.
I think it's totally up to the members.
Correct.
If you feel that there is an appearance of conflict, I think you should just recuse yourself. Nobody can tell you, nobody can force you. The commission cannot make a motion to approve to recuse this X or Y. But as an individual, I mean, if you feel like there is an appearance of conflict, it's safer to just say, hey, I'm not going to talk about this.
I do agree with Musa. I mean, I served a lot of boards and commissions for years, and we had cases where, people built or did something with land, but it was always what I understood is it's the individual. If I feel that I'm in conflict, I should abstain. But if I don't feel that I don't have to abstain. Yeah. Now, you cannot tell me to abstain. I mean, that's what I heard this for years and years, even when I was on different boards and commission. So
I agree. If you feel there is something there, it makes it a lot easier.
It's a judgment call by that person to say, hey, is there like an appearance of conflict? It's better to just stay away from it.
I have asked for the town staff for some direction. I haven't received any comments.
it's up to individual. If you feel you are, but nobody can tell you, you cannot abstain.
Motion to adjourn.
Anybody else from the public? No? Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, second at 8:40. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Recording stopped.